Time for an update from Rome Resources. Paul Barrett joins us now. Paul, hello, how are you?
Hi, fine, thanks.
So,
Good
news
to be
out
here.
the other day about a new zone of mineralisation that you seem to have discovered at Mont Agoma there in the eastern DRC. It's only XRF for the time being, but it does look promising. So, should we kick off with you telling us a little bit about what the implications of that might be?
Yes, absolutely. So, as part of the drilling program that we're undertaking, which is drilling deeper under the existing drill holes, we're offsetting out to the east, and this hole 30 encountered, although it's a weathered zone, so visibly cassiterite is quite difficult to see in the weathered zone, but the XRF has shown that there is tin in the shallow sequence, and that's completely unexpected for a couple of reasons. One, we're just expecting to go through the metamorphics and then down into the existing zones that we'd found. And secondly, we're outside the footprint of the geochemical soil anomaly. So, the soil anomaly was our original kind of exploration tool that we used to identify the drilling locations. Being outside that, but actually still encountering quite what looks like a relatively significant tin zone, very shallow, near surface, with no tin anomaly in the soil, is quite interesting, and it begs the question as to why. And I think the answer there is that if we're down the flank of the hillside, the topography is quite steep, and with the tropical conditions, there's a lot of runoff and a lot of erosion. So I think a lot of that tin anomaly that was there has been eroded away. So for us, it's really positive because it suggests that we should keep looking on the northeastern flank, because that's obviously where we found this. We're going to be drilling a couple of holes to the north of that to chase that, a couple of holes to the south, as well as continuing with the deeper program. So it's got the potential for additional resource over and above what we'd already thought we had.
And we mentioned that it was XRF at this point. When do you expect the assays to come back and kind of prove this theory to be either true or not true?
Well, I think the fact that we had a bit of a mechanical problem with hole 30, I had to abandon it at 70 meters, so we're having to re-drill it. It will give us two sets of cores, obviously, but and I think we're really looking at the history of how long it takes to get the cores out of country, well, offsite, out of country, into Johannesburg. Then we're probably talking at least a month. So I would say towards the latter part of July, we should start to get some assays. We've got some other holes that we've been drilled. A lot of those are in, along with tin, a lot of copper. So there'll be some interesting results on those coming out as well. But this RNS, as you alluded to, was just about this one particular tin zone that we found. So there's lots of other things going on at the same time. We keep putting the news out whenever it arrives. So just keep everybody informed.
So tell us a bit more about those other things then. Now, what's the sort of broader picture with the work on the ground that Rome is undertaking?
So there's a combination. We are undertaking a resource estimate at the moment with MSA in Johannesburg, and they will probably take the rest of this month to do that. And that's based on effectively the drilling results and the assays that we obtained up to the point around about middle March. So now that we restarted drilling last month, we then have quite a lot of new material which we're working on the, as well as the resource estimate. We're doing some metallurgy work, so we're getting some core material to a lab in Canada to initially look at the mineralogy, and then look at how we might be able to extract, because it's slightly different to Alphamin as far as we've got additional copper and zinc, especially in the overburden near surface. So that's something that we want to try and make sure that we monetize in the process of digging out the tin. And so that will then be how to work out the flow sheet in terms of how the metallurgy is going to get worked out. So that's very important work that we're doing at the moment. We're we're just basically drilling ahead on where we are with the program, and I think we'd probably be drilling for another 8 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, something like that.
And how many drill rigs have you got at work for you guys at the moment?
We've got 3 physically drilling. One is still being worked on, but we've got 3 active, which all on Mont Agoma at the moment. So there's three Mont Agoma holes going down as we speak.
It's an extensive program of work, I think. It's fair to say, at least in comparison to what other exploration companies are able to put together in this current mining and metals environment in which we're in.
Yes, I mean we're very grateful to Stanvik Minerals for coming in just at the tail end of last year with additional strategic funding, which has allowed us to expand the program. It is quite a focused program. Obviously, it's the 2. Well, now it's only Mont Agoma that we're drilling on, but the 2 prospects that we have, Kalai Tin and Mont Agoma, the polymetallic. So we are very focused in that. It's not a regional exploration program by any means, and so I think that's kind of keeping people focused on what we're doing.
Now, you mentioned Alphamin a moment ago there, Paul. Tell us a little bit about the significance of Alphamin to your position. It's not too far away from where you are, and also a little bit about developments there. There's been some corporate activity, as I understand it.
Yes, that's right. So Alphamin are 8 kilometers away, and obviously they're producing tin, highest grade tin mine in the world, and it's a very, very good business. And so we have a bit of a working relationship with Alphamin at the moment in terms of logistics and what have you. So that's kind of ongoing. But I think the larger picture is that if we have some decent resources on the tin side coming out towards the end of this year after the update, then Alphamin only have about 7 or 8 years of mine life, so they do need to start thinking at this early stage of replacing resources, and clearly 8 kilometers away in the DRC is really absolutely next door. So that's something that we will look at in terms of a conversation. You're right that Denim Capital sold their 56% stake to the Abu Dhabi IRH state fund, and that is quite interesting because I believe it's their first foray into both tin and the DRC. They were thinking about the DRC late last year, but not overly convinced because of the security issues. Obviously, they've become comfortable with that, and I think a lot of that is also the changing scenario of minerals there, with the US coming in and trying to do deals. That things are starting to normalize a bit more, and so that all helps the business proposition of exploring in that part of the world for us.
So finally, Paul, to close it out, we've been talking about tin, off and on throughout this conversation. What's your view of tin at the moment? Where does it sit in terms of its outlook and pricing?
Well, the outlook's very, very solid. I mean, longer term, certainly, if you look at the requirements for AI, the number, advanced computing and chips, etc. Tin is a very important part of that story, as well as electric vehicles and solar panels, etc. So I think longer term, the demand is there. Tin is a metal that is quite difficult to recycle. You can only recycle, I think, about 20% of the world's tin is recycled, which is, compared to copper, is very small. So the supply will continue to be required to be upgraded. There have been some supply issues, but they're kind of short-term things. But I think longer term, the price at around about $30,000 a ton, I think that's highly sustainable. And in terms of profitability, so a mine like ours, if we take numbers from next door, then we're looking at about $12,000 a ton lifting and processing costs. So the margins are fantastic at $30,000 a ton.
Great. Well, so we look forward to the news flow that you've mentioned earlier, Paul. We look forward to checking in with you soon. But for now, thanks very much for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Alistair.